And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Because all the blessings that we're going to get, which is entailing the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah 60th chapter, I'm going to start at the 10th verse and read on down. It says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. So the sons of strangers, that's talking about the actual strangers, the other nations, shall build up thy walls. We're going to have them in slavery. So they're going to be building the kingdom of heaven, because we're not building nothing. We're not lifting a hand to move nothing. It says, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. That's talking about the actual Gentiles. We're going to take all of their substance, and that their kings may be brought.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Verse 13. And the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. So the land of Israel, the land of Jerusalem, is going to be made glorious. It's going to be made glorious once again. The kingdom is going to be built up. We had a taste of that during the time of Solomon's reign, which was for about 40 years. Verse 14. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the sole of thy feet. And they shall call thee the city of the Lord. The word Zion means monument, the monument of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breasts of kings, meaning we're going to take all their substance. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy power, the Lord and thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring thee gold, and for iron I will bring thee silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. And I will make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the power thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, meaning our kingdom is not going to go down. In other words, once we get back in power, we're going to be in power forever. The sun is never going to go down on our kingdom again. The sun is never going to set on our kingdom. We're going to always be, we're going to always be in that glory once we get into the kingdom of heaven. There's no more going back into slavery under the other nations. Esau's not going to rise back up and put us in captivity. Ham, Japheth, Ishmael, none of the other nations are going to rise up and take us down ever again. When we get on top this time, we're going to remain on top. Neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So no more mourning, no more crying, no more vexation of spirit, no more weeping, no more hopelessness because of the condition that we're in as Israelites right now. Verse 21, thy people also shall be all righteous, they shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Verse 22, a little one shall become 1,000. This is in the kingdom. So what is this talking about? We're going to have sex. Again, like I said, The 2/3 that are going to pass in this destruction, the 2/3 are going to come back through the 1/3 that make it. The Lord said, 2/3 shall be cut off and die, and the third will I bring through the fire. It says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and their sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, all right, this morning news and prophecy, going into global shortages, man. And these are all things that are written in the scriptures, all right. And what we're seeing, we're in the high time of prophecy. Okay, the word of the Lord, is speaking louder, all right, and louder in the earth, by the day. Things are speeding up, things are becoming more intense, all right. So we're seeing these global shortages, and we know, all right, a lot of these crises are engineered by Esau, but we have to remember Esau is a tool that's being used on the left-hand side to bring about the will of the Lord. All right, so Esau Edom, he has his agenda that he wants to bring, all right, to pass. Well, the Most High has an agenda, okay, and he uses, all right, this devil, these elites on the left-hand side, to attempt this new world order, and in the midst of that, they're causing prophecy to come to pass when it comes to judgment. Okay, because what we're seeing happening, is the Lord's getting ready to judge in the earth. Okay, and He's getting ready to bring calamities. All right, distress. All right, perplexity, as the scriptures speak about. Okay, He's getting ready to make these things manifest in the earth. He had his prophets. The prophets have been speaking on these things for decades. Okay, and now we're in a time where the warning, okay, the verbal warning is going to stop, and it's going to be just judgment out here, man. Okay. Matter of fact, let's go here. All right, let's get this in the book. Okay, of Second Esdras. Okay, and we'll jump around. So this is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 1. Okay, so let's go here. We got a few videos to get into. A lot going on. All right. So it says, Second Esdras 15 and 1, it says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, said the Lord. Okay. So the Lord has put, his words in the mouth of the prophets. Okay. When we speak, when we teach, these are the words of the Heavenly Father flowing through brothers, man. This is why it's not of us, man. Okay. This is why we're not here, all right, to feed into an ego, to make ourselves, some type of YouTube celebrity. Nah, this is serious business, man. We're vessels being used for the Lord, all right, to express himself to the earth. Okay, because Heavenly Father, he's not going to speak directly to the earth, man. Everyone would die. Okay, so he uses us as a vessel, okay, that he speaks through. Okay, you see, he allows, the prophets, to be endowed with the Holy Spirit, to have an understanding of his word and be able to expound on his word, okay, to the world, man. All right, as a warning for our people, as a call to repentance to our people, all right, the Lord's people, the Israelites, okay, and just to let these other nations know what's going to happen. Okay, so we're have been put on assignment, to prophesy, okay, and be vessels, okay, for the words of Yahweh Bashim Shah to flow through into the earth, man. Okay, it says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true, you know. And as we go into the scriptures, man, everything that the Lord said was going to happen has happened, and everything that the Lord promised to happen is happening or getting ready to happen, man. There's nothing written, okay, that's not either been fulfilled, being fulfilled as we speak, or is about to be fulfilled, man. Okay, the Lord spoke about a third war, and here we are. We in this third world war. There was big speculations and rumors about this war for a long time, and now we here. Okay, now it's just a point of this thing continue to escalate. All right, and there's this third world wars going on. You have these other prophecies. Now they're getting ready to take effect. The shortages, because these shortages, okay, are going to lead to what? Famine, okay, civil unrest, Jacob's trouble, okay, and the implementation of the MOTB. Okay. And after that, this third world war can go nuclear. So everything that the Lord spoke about, everything written of that he has had his prophets, constantly reiterate day after day, going into these things, man. Well, they're happening, man. Okay. They're happening in real time. You see, it says, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Yeah, because people's unbelief, okay. Matter of fact, people that don't believe, they're just a part of prophecy, man. Okay, they're just that's part of the script. When you go into the Bible, it's the script to the Most High's movie. So people with their unbelief, incredulity, which is not having the ability to believe, okay, because they don't have the spirit, okay, because to believe, well, the Lord has endowed you with His Holy Spirit, His understanding, okay. Without the Holy Spirit, because within the Holy Spirit is a gift of faith, man. And only a remnant of the nation of Israel have that, man. Okay? And there's going to be a majority that's going to have incredulity, man. All right? The inability to believe. Okay? So they're going to speak against His word, even while this word is happening, man. Okay? You see, prophecy, all right, is going to make a believer out of Jake, but it's going to be too late. You see, it's going to be too late, man. All right. So what we're seeing now, okay, is incredulity, people still in belief, meaning disbelief. Okay. They still, make it seem as if the Hebrew Israelites are the problem, as if we're just, out here, but like we're bugged out. Okay. But that's how the Lord got this thing set up, man. Okay. But people's unbelief have no sway on prophecy being fulfilled or not. You don't have to believe for prophecy to be fulfilled. Okay, your belief is not needed. Okay, only the belief of the elect, okay, is going to be, only the belief of the elect is going to hold during these times, man. All right, these people unbelief, they have no sway. And that's why they're going to be judged. Why I say verse 4, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, man. Yeah, so these same people that don't believe, that mock, that scoff, that ignore or whatever, guess what? They're going to starve to death. They're going to die in this war. They're going to die of civil unrest, the teeth of wild beasts, these torment camps that's getting ready. Okay. All these things, man, they're going to die in their unbelief, man. Prophecy is going to just take them out. Okay. They're going to die in their unfaithfulness, man. Okay, verse 5 it says, behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Okay, so the Lord is getting ready to bring this on, man. And Esau just a tool being used, all right, to bring these things about, bring particular these things about. Okay, because Esau is just a part of the Lord's judgment, man. There's things that's going to be happening that has nothing to do with Esau, man. The Lord's getting ready to do things that have absolutely nothing to do with Esau. Esau gonna be, these elites gonna be caught off guard, man. Even how this war is going, the devils they on the back foot. Okay, they're trying to throw this Hail Mary off the back foot, man, with this new world order. Okay? And it says, I will bring plagues upon the world, and the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Okay, their hurtful works are fulfilled, man. So wickedness has reached a point to where the Lord's getting ready to judge, man. Okay, the Lord's getting ready to bring bad times to the earth, man. You see, He's getting ready to bring scarcity, okay, starvation, poverty. Okay, we're coming into some very difficult times that the scriptures speak about. Okay, because this is the Lord intervening, okay, in the affairs of the earth, man, with heavy judgment. You see, the Lord is causing all these things to happen that we see, man. You know, it's the Lord that closed the Strait of Hormuz. All right, it's the Lord that got this devil trying to push this energy crisis lockdown, whatever, the false flags that he got brewing. You see, the allergies and these particular things, man. The Lord is driving this, man. Okay, the Lord is in control of every scenario. Okay, remember Esau is just a tool within the Lord's judgment, man. Okay, I remember this devil, he's just a tool in the tool belt of the Most High, man. All right, to bring about this judgment. You see, and we coming to a time. Let's get this real quick. Um, let's go Second Ezra 7. Okay, all right, let's get this real quick in Second Ezra 7, and Second Ezra 7:33 says, "And the Most High shall appear upon the seat of judgment, and misery shall pass away, and long suffering shall have an end." And that's the misery and the long suffering of the elect. All right, because their seat of judgment is going to be a chariot. Okay, you go into Joel 3, speaks about in the valley of Jehoshaphat, how the Lord is going to sit and judge the nation. That's your Howell shot in the chariot. All right, destroying, all right, the militaries of the heathen. Okay, which there's righteous judgment that's going to go forth. Okay, and misery shall pass away, and the long suffering shall have an end. Okay, and that's the misery and the long suffering of the elect, man, because we're going to be we're going to be in that chariot, this judgment seat. Okay, Lord will, if we of that number we endure, we're going to be in this chariot. We're going to be changed. Okay, we're going to be, okay, it's going to be the beginning of the new covenant. Okay, so misery is going to pass away and long suffering for the elect. Okay, but judgment is going to begin for the world. Okay, but judgment only shall remain. Truth shall stand and faith shall wax strong. Yeah, so only judgment shall remain. We get to the point where the only thing left is the judgment, man. Okay, the Lord's getting to the point where he's about did enough talking through the prophets, man. Okay, it's just gonna be time to open up in judgment. Okay, death by pain, as the scriptures speak about. Okay, and the only thing that's gonna stand is this truth, man. Okay, Esau, Edom, all his wickedness, okay, his agendas and his technocracy that he's trying to roll out, man, this shit from the fall, man. Hey, the Most High finna boo this nigga off stage, man, like the Apollo, man. All right, Yahweh Shai coming like the Sandman, okay, and getting this nigga off stage, man. This nigga is terrible as a ruler, man. Okay, and the elect is booing this nigga off stage, man. It's gonna cause the Sandman. I don't know if some of y'all brothers and sisters remember that Apollo. You know, you get your ass booed. All right, there's that horn, that siren come on, and then the Sandman come. All right, and sweep your ass off the stage, man. Well, that's what the Lord is getting ready to do with Esau, man. Okay, because the elect is born this nigga rulership, man. Okay, and eventually the Lord had that siren, like the scriptures speak about. You know, I might have to do a whole lesson on this. It's a lot to go into that. You know, but it says, but judgment only shall remain, truth shall stand, and faith shall wax strong. You see, because our faith is going to wax stronger as we constantly see the word of the Lord, okay, playing out in the earth, man. You know, our faith should be our faith, you know, should constantly be on the increase as we see our power doing exactly what he said he was going to do. All right, verse 35, and the work shall follow, and the reward shall be showed, and the good deeds shall be of force, and the wicked deeds shall bear no rule. Okay? The wicked deeds shall bear no rule, man. The good deeds shall be of force, man. That's of the elect, man. We're going to be protected in these times. We're going to have provisions. Okay? The Lord's going to be providing. Okay? Miracles. And eventually we're going to be delivered. All right? We're going to be changed. We're going to get their reward, those new bodies, that new covenant. Okay? But wickedness shall bear no rule, because right now we in a society where wickedness prospers, man. Okay? Well, Yahweh Shah opens up judgment. All right? As he's getting ready to return, man. See, wickedness is going to be judged now. Okay? And this is the time that we in. The Lord's judging the earth, man. All right? There's a lot of judgment that has to go forth. Okay? Because people are wicked, man. Okay? This society is wicked, man. This society is anti-Messiah, is off. Okay? It's proud. Okay? And that's going to be addressed. You see? So let's go here. Let's get this first video. All right? So this is redacted. Okay? Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, let's play this. All right, because we know these devils are intentionally, they want to disrupt, all right, the supply chain. Okay, they want empty stores, they want chaos, they want panic, they want fear, they want uncertainty. Okay, so they can come in and play the hero with this technocracy, man. Okay, as a fix-all. So let's play this.
Well, food shortages, fuel shortages, and long lines around the world, how will it impact our day-to-day living? Just take a look at India and overnight gas lines in India, hours long. God knows if there's even any petrol available for these people to buy it in the first place. We're already seeing food shortages, store shelves, people maybe panic buying. Maybe it's legitimate that more food is not showing up on those shelves. Take a look at the UK, gas lines here in the UK, with only, according to reports this afternoon, only about 2 days left of petrol available in the UK. Where will they get more? How will they get it? And you have Australia, and Australia is really being hurt hard right now. Of course, we talked about the fuel shortages there, but one farmer has gone a bit viral in Australia for talking about how devastating and how he's trying to really paint a picture. This clip is 8 minutes. I'm just going to show you a few seconds of it. You can seek it out.
See, it's going to hit these other countries first, because they're so oil dependent, energy dependent on the Strait of Hormuz. All right, which America is not energy dependent. All right, on the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so America, these things are going to take time. All right, but the devil can still, you can have cyber attacks, and blaming on Iran, false flags. So there's a lot of things happening, just beyond, these shortages. Okay, they can really throw this thing into another gear. Okay, but at the end of the day, just looking at, you're going to see these other countries begin to suffer before America, man. And all these countries are on board with this global reset. Okay, so you have, these shortages, all right, and all these different governments, are beginning to implement rationings, certain, lockdown protocols. Okay, so we're going to see this, especially, the EU nation and certain Eastern, all right, Asian nations, man. These South Pacific Asian nations, and the Philippines, and so on, so forth and so on, because they're majorly energy dependent and they don't have any, all right, self-sufficient energy. Okay, so we're going to see these things happen in these other countries, and eventually, because when it hit America, it's going to hit the worst. Okay, it's going to hit the worst in America when, all right, these things finally hit and take effect in America, man. The Lord saving America for last, man, and the worst for last. All right.
On your own, but just want to set the tone of what he's sort of complaining about the politicians in the Capitol about how bad things are about to get. Just listen to a few seconds of this.
Whoa. What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Well, g'day. Here we go again. Sorry about the usual intro. Standing here in front of the centre pivot, you see the diesel tank having behind me. The crop you see behind me is a maize crop. This is mainly targeted at our clowns in Canberra, Macquarie Street, and you know, particularly Labor and the coalition, particularly, you know, obviously Matt Canavan, his attack on us and things like that. Yeah, see, I'm a One Nation, hadn't got the One Nation stubby hole. Yeah,
so there he goes. Then he goes on to really explain and lay out just how difficult it is for farmers in Australia right now, but of course around the world. So we wanted to talk about that today. AJ Richards is the founder of From the Farm. He has been working to prevent famine in America for the last 6 years. And I think we really started to see some pieces of that when the whole fake COVID pandemic unfolded. And you got to see sort of the trial run of like what a possible famine actually might look like. AJ, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I'm sure you've been watching this very, very closely, not just over the past 3 weeks as this war has unfolded, but for years. What started to concern you maybe before this war broke out, that our system, I think that's what the thing I want to hit on too, is that our system was already incredibly fragile, right? Before this, you add in an Iranian war on top of it. Can you talk about specifically, I guess, in the United States, what you were seeing ahead of time?
Yeah, so in my family are sixth-generation ranchers from southern Utah, northern Arizona, and we were selling beef direct to consumer in 2019. And then when COVID hit, we called our local processor to get our next round of livestock scheduled for processing so we could feed our customers. And the disruption of COVID and what happened in the large-scale slaughterhouses caused a cascading effect that backed up our smaller local processors. So when we called to get our next round of processing, they told us, yeah, we can get you in a year and a half. Now, for context, a week or two prior to that moment, we would call and say, hey, we have 5, when can we get them in? And it was literally within a week or two. And so when COVID hit and disrupted the entire supply chain, it became very clear that our supply chain has become so degraded that most of us don't even know this is happening. Ultimately, we had to shut down that business because we couldn't get consistent processing to feed the customers that we were already serving. So that was sort of the first big aha moment that we're in trouble. Ranchers and farmers have been screaming about this across the country for a long time, but we didn't really start seeing the effects of that until COVID hit. And it just became really clear we've got some real work to do in this country to get us back on track.
What are the mechanisms that broke down? What do you think, where were the failure points?
Yeah, there's a few. And first of all, the large-scale corporate-owned slaughterhouses, 4 companies control 85% of the meat we consume. And there's roughly 30 slaughterhouses that process 80% of the meat we consume in our entire nation.
So you have 4, all right, companies that, okay, deal with, 85% of the meat that Americans consume. So how easy is it for the devils to manipulate that, and cause, intentional disruptions in that? 4 companies. You see, this is a very fragile system that the elites have set up, when it comes to shipping, when it comes to energy, when it comes to the power grid, when it comes to the food supply. All right. Because remember, only 2% of Americans, okay, are farmers. Okay. The rest of the 98% depend on this 2%. And these 2% have to deal with these few major companies, man. 30 slaughterhouses, okay, and 4 major, processors. Okay. So how easily can that be disrupted, especially when you have shortages on energy? When they get the rationing energy, they turn the pumps off. What they turn the pumps off at the gas station and say, look, you got a reserve, or whatever, man. So many scenarios it can go, but you just see how fragile, okay, from the farm to the fork, as they say, is a very fragile system. All right, they can be easily manipulated to engineer, okay, a famine. Okay. So we see these devils now moving with these energy, all right, these energy crisis lockdowns. Okay, there's so much that they can do. They can spin off, okay, and cause disruptions in everything, man. So we'll see. Let's just play some more.
So they're processing around 6,000 plus head of livestock a day. So when COVID hit and those folks couldn't come to work and process, they weren't doing the processing. And our system is built so efficiently for just-in-time delivery that if you're processing 6,000 head of cattle today, you've got 6,000 more coming tomorrow and the next day and the next day and so on. Well, when that jam started, you had this backup in the finishing lots all the way down, finishing lots where they fatten the cattle and get them ready for processing. You had that cascading effect all the way down to folks that were ready to deliver. And now feeding livestock is a lot more expensive when they're ready to be processed than just processing and put in the freezer. So that was the first implication, was just this breakdown in our supply chain where the processing happens because of that consolidation. Then a year later, folks remember sometime around 2021, they started limiting the meat you could buy again. And that time it was because JBS got hacked and had an $11 million ransom they had to pay, but they were locked out of their system for, I think it was like a week or something like that. And so they couldn't process again for an entire week across, their supply chain. And so that was continuing to cause problems for our system. Even today, there's parts of our country where the small processors are backed up 6-9 months. Even today, 6 years post-COVID.
Did you know the average starting salary for a junior programmer is $75,000?
That's insane. Well, don't you hate when people say, I told you so? Yeah, that's me, actually, because I did tell you. Sorry, but I told you the over. It's easy to do. Natalie and I have done it for both. And you can receive up to $20,000 in free bonus medals with a line. The West Coast is going to be rough. Obviously, you're on the western part of the country right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, if this keeps going, everything in this country, there's no such thing as local anymore, at least on a scale that matters, right? So everything we do depends on trucking. It's been pretty well known for many folks that pay attention to this, that in any given town or city, your grocery stores have 3 days of food. That's without panic buying. And so if the trucks aren't coming in because they can't get fuel, or even if they can get fuel for, prioritizing those systems, the cost for that is going to increase the cost of the goods they're hauling. And then that goes all the way downstream to manufacturing new tractors or any other aspect that's necessary. All of those parts and pieces and things that we're moving around using fuel, they're going to cost more because it costs more to get it there.
I hate to be, I am a conspiracy theorist, but that just means I'm a 6-month spoiler alert kind of guy. Yeah. A friend of the show, David Icke, has been saying, you need to step back from what's happening in Iran. You need to see the larger picture here, which is they're intentionally doing this, that intentional scarcity, so they can, as you pointed out during COVID, prevent us from eating meat, right? Mm-hmm. Move us to like an all electric future, reduce our dependency on farms, take away this land, consolidate the consolidation control. Is he wrong, or
all of that happening and still perpetuating today through different organizations? Like in the West, one of the big things we're dealing with is the loss of grazing land for our cow-calf ranchers. That means those particular ranchers have mama cows that have the babies, and that feeds into the downstream pipeline. But public land grazing, which is like your Bureau of Land Management from the Department of Interior, or your Forest Service from USDA, state trust land, these kinds of things, ranchers have a lease on those to raise their cows. But you get these environmental ENGOs that come in and they cause havoc, and they'll sue and settle to reduce the number of livestock that a rancher can produce on those lands. In the 1935, before the Taylor Grazing Act, we had 18 million what they call AUMs, animal units a month. That means a mama cow and a baby cow is considered one AUM. So in 1935, we had 18 million in the West. Today we have 8 million because the ranchers are being squeezed at every turn. That's our food supply. Livestock on public land is what refertilizes the soil so that we have grass. Well, that's being reduced. So we're seeing desertification happening in the West because of the lack of ruminating animals. Wildfires are out of control because of the reduction of grazing and logging. So we have these very unhealthy forests that are tinderboxes ready to explode. Without the grass, it also breaks up what we call what's your local water cycles. About 40% of your moisture is supposed to come naturally from local water cycles, which is created by grass and vegetation. That's all going away because of these fights that ranchers have been in and largely unheard for decades.
So he's been at war with the farmers for a while, and that's something that's not talked about because they're just used to restaurants and kicking it and chilling and drinks and happy hours and club and wings and food trucks everywhere. So they're not considering, okay, where's all this abundance coming from? Okay. And these devils have been, in all out attack on the farmers for a while, man. Okay, and it's going to finally hit. The supply chain is going to finally snap. Okay, and it's going to be just man, it's going to wreak havoc. Okay, it's going to have a crazy ripple effect, man. Okay, it's just as the elder brother put. All right, it's the beloved elder brother Yahshua Woman written to say 144, Joel 1-17 in the NLT. The seeds die in the parched ground, which is dry. Okay, and that's and the thing that the devil is doing. He's disrupting the natural order of how the world supposed to run. He wants to bring an all synthetic society, man. That's why he wants to get people away from fossil fuels and on his electric grid. He wants to get people away from cars, all right, gas cars to what electric cars, man. It gives him more control. He wants a complete synthetic, all right, reality, man. Okay, his technocracy is this devil creating, okay, a reality after his image, man, with this grid. Okay, and this devil doesn't have enough resources, all right, to run this technocracy, man. And that's another thing. He needs the natural resources, okay, for himself, and he gives everyone synthetic resources. But he needs the natural resources as much as he can get, okay, to run this grid, man, because it takes a lot of LNG and a lot of diesel to run these data centers, man. Okay, so he wants everyone else on the electric grid, okay. He wants the earth to be completely synthetic, okay, while he hoards up all the natural resources to run, this to attempt to run this technocracy, man. Okay, it's a terrible plan, man. The closer we get to this nigga and get up on this nigga and we see what this nigga is doing and what he's trying to do, man, it's a terrible plan. Okay? It said the seeds die in parched ground back in Joel 1-17. The seeds die in the parched ground and the grain crops fail. The barns stand empty and the granaries are abandoned. Yeah, man. So he's making it almost impossible for these farmers to survive. And then he's using these direct energy weapons, all right, to just scorch, these grazing lands, man. And it just has a ripple effect, man. It has a major ripple effect. Even El Yashawama went into that how, those cows are sensitive. They have a sensitive respiratory system, man. So all this smoke from these fires, man, even that's having an effect, okay, on the livestock, man. All right, he's a damn devil, man. Like I say, it's to the time where this nigga is finna get booed off stage, man. Okay? This nigga has to get booed off stage, man. He's doing too goddamn much. Okay? In verse 18, it says, how the animals moan with hunger. The herds of the cattle wander about confused because they have no pasture. The flocks of sheep, all right, and goats bleat in misery, man. And this is just a place of suffering. All life suffers under Esau, man. Okay? And his ambition to be the most high, to play the most high in the earth, all life suffers, man. Okay? So he's making it to the point to where, farming gonna be obsolete. Because in his new world order, he doesn't want farming. Okay? He doesn't want farms. He wants all synthetic. Okay? So let's go here. This is the book of Jeremiah 49-31. This is another one by the beloved Elder Yashawamba. Jeremiah 49-31. It says, arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation. And another thing too, America was able to create all this wealth, man. That's why, the effects of, these certain crises, America has always been able to weather certain storms where other nations are destroyed. Because you gotta think, America was able to create a system where they print paper, but they get actual substance with this paper. Okay? You gotta think this man has created a system where he can just print this paper back by nothing, but he's getting actual resources, man. America is extremely wealthy. People talk about the military, which you see them, and that's why the military has been able to be as mighty as it is, because it just had an unlimited budget. Okay? But then even beyond the military, because a lot of these, like even when you go to Iraq and these certain, they took down Saddam and this person and that person, they be paying a lot of people off. You know, a lot of these governments are bought and paid for. Okay, a lot of the military action be for show, but America just so goddamn wealthy, man. Because you give these politicians in these other nations 10 million American dollars, man. That's a, you know, they're billionaires, man. You see, and this devil is able to just print all this goddamn money, all this paper, but he's been able to, you know, get all these actual resources with this paper, man. You know, because the dollar is a scam. You know, so this devil has increased himself, especially here in America, man. You know, with this petrodollar. Okay, this man has magnificently, all right, enriched himself, man, and that's why Americans, all right, are so oblivious to the crisis that go on in the rest of the world. You see, we don't understand the devastation that these sanctions do to these other nations, man. Okay, and in America, all right, for the longest, it ain't been able to be sanctioned. You know, America can sanction everyone else, but no one has been able to sanction America. Now with this whole Strait of Hormuz thing, all right, you have it to now with a petrodollar, you know, like they're prying that petrodollar from their oil, okay, which is the strength of that dollar, you know, backed by the military. But wait, America's military is bound up. It can't fulfill all these promises of protection to these nations when it's in a dogfight with Iran. Okay, so now the trust in the dollar, because no matter how hectic the world was, one of the things that the world always went to, these nations, these economies are always flocked to, was the dollar, because the dollar would always stand strong through all these crises, through all these wars, through all these things. The dollar would go strong. But see, now these nations are like, wait, we run into the dollar, we can cut ourselves out the deal. You know, well, America, we see America can't protect all of us. It can't even protect that little region. Okay, so now what we're starting to see is a true pull away from the dollar. This is the first time where nations are really beginning to have to pull away, and the Lord is forcing all this, man. Okay, the Lord set all this in order. Okay, so we're going to see a major collapse of this wealthy nation, man. All right, Jeremiah 49:31, it says, "Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith the Lord, which have neither gates nor bars, all right, which dwell alone." All right, and this place is unprotected. Okay, and they dwell alone. You know, like I say, America has just been in its own little world. You know, while the earth has went through all type of sufferings, man, and America has just had the privilege to be in its own little world, still kicking it and chilling. All right, Super Bowl, March Madness, okay, Wingstop, you know, they just chilling. You know, mass starvation in the earth, and America just been chilling through it all, man. But hey, the Lord's gonna bring all it, bring famine. He's gonna bring poverty. He's gonna bring violence. It's gonna come all to America, man. Okay, at one time. Okay, so let's read this, and we'll play a little more of this and go to something else. The second Ezra 6:22. It says, "And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." Okay, suddenly shall be found empty, man. You know, because it's people. I say people are just used to things being there. Okay, it's just so much convenience and abundance in America, man. DoorDash, Uber Eats, buffets, you know, $5 pizza. You know, like damn. You see, 100 chicken nuggets. Like damn. Okay, church. You know, churches got 28 pieces, $7. Like god damn. You know, so Americans are used to all this abundance, man, but it's all going to diminish, man, to nothing. It's not going to come back. Okay, and it's going to be a suffering here, man. You know, so let's play a little more of this.
It's unbelievable. It's not unbelievable at all. I mean, we friend the show Dane Wigington, of course, from geoengineeringwatch.org. He's been saying, have you seen what's happened to these farms? Have you seen what's happening to this land? It's just the desertification of this land, the trees that are just falling apart and just collapsing. And, you see what's happening with the spraying in the skies. Has the spraying in the skies affected you at your farms?
Yeah, in some areas. I just watched a woman today giving a testimony in South Carolina where she has a farm, and she's been monitoring. She's an animal specialist in a local farming group, so she's knowledgeable in this. And she said she's lost 80% of her butterflies just in the last 3 years because she monitored those things. She was trying to create a habitat for the monarch, and her neighbors do bees, and they've seen significant reduction in their bees around their farm. And this was all focused on atmospheric aerosol sprays as the cause.
That's unbelievable. I know this morning I went out here in Colorado and three crisscrossing pattern. And in about 20 minutes, I posted this on Twitter. Within 20 minutes, the entire area where those had just been sprayed were fully dark, fully clouded, covering it to keep the sun. We want to dim everything. It's so deeply troubling. It just disheartens me, because how are we allowing this to happen? How are we allowing this to happen, to go from 18 million animals in the 30s, population that's exploded in the United States, and now we have 8 million?
Because they want all synthetic, okay? They want all synthetic, man. Okay? That's why it's like that. Okay? So let's go from here. All right? Just go to a little more around the world, what's going on. Okay? Let's get this. All right? Dealing with these Asian nations. They're saying the Philippines have, 45 days left, a few, So, hey, month for month, man, if it keep going like this, man, it's month for month, we'll see, man. May the Lord keep this going, man. Because these devils, they can't keep pump faking. All right, they can't keep, doing trial runs and pulling back. Time ain't with these niggas, man. Okay, the war has started. These niggas got to come on with their move, man. So let's play this.
Well, the economic fallout from the US-Israel-Iran war continues. The president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., has declared a state of national energy emergency in response to the Middle East conflict and what he is calling an imminent danger that is posed to the country's energy supply. Let's take you live to Manila. We can join our Asia business correspondent, Suranjana Tawari, who is there for us. What did the president say, Suranjana?
Yes, Lucy, this came in the form of an executive order, which, as with the US, it allows the government to take steps to take measures legally without having to go through Congress for approval. But this has really been bubbling under the surface. The Philippines has seen numerous price hikes since the conflict started in the Middle East. And one issue is that 90 really been suffering from everything from transportation to the price of rice, which has more than doubled as well, because of course rice has to be transported from wherever it's imported from into the cities and out to the rural areas as well. There was another rate hike just today, and that takes the price of diesel and petrol as well to more than double since the conflict started. So what does this executive order mean? Well, it gives the government powers to control the distribution of food. It also is able to control movement and so reduce the reliance on energy as much. And there's also a big question mark because there were demonstrations organized for this coming Thursday and Friday. Emergency powers generally mean that the government can stop those types of demonstrations, but we've not heard anything about that just yet.
They're obviously protesting over the hardship that all of this is causing. Has there been any commitment from the president, Suranjana, for cash or for financial assistance for ordinary people?
Yeah, there's been subsidies. There's been handouts of subsidies and long queues in order to get them. But, many drivers of buses, there are these open buses that you have here in the Philippines that most people commute on. They're very colorful. And it's estimated that in Manila alone, 9 million people use those every day. But the drivers that we spoke to said those subsidies are not enough to cover the rent of those buses, and that they really need help with being able to increase prices, fares for their customers. And that's something else that the government controls. So perhaps with these measures, that could help as well. But the other issue is that, those buses also transport kids to school, children all over the country, and they're not even able to provide those services. And then, as I mentioned, food getting around the country is also a problem. Now, the government's implemented a number of other measures. It has already implemented a 4-day working week for office goers. It's also asked government employees to use the stairs instead of lifts. So there are these piecemeal measures, but this is really the biggest measure yet. And we understand that this is the first country in the world to declare some sort of emergency as a result of the disruption to oil supplies in the Middle East.
Yeah, man. So you see, these governments, okay, are having to enforce, certain mandates, begin distribution of energy, so forth and so on. And see, these things are eventually going to come to America. So the Philippines, they're in a state of emergency.
Hello. My name is Adam Ferrer.
The government, all right, is, becoming more hands-on, okay, and trying to manage, so-called manage this, okay, this this shortage, okay, and these things eventually going to make their way to the West, man. Okay, so let's go into another one. Let's see. Yeah. So this is these Asian nations, because you look at it, all right, the most dependent on this oil from the Strait of Hormuz in these Asian nations and these Europeans. Okay, they're the most dependent on this oil. Okay, so we're going to see collapse and shortages begin to affect them, first. Okay, which is all, engineered. Okay, but ultimately it's the Lord. All right, like I say, they're using Esau as a tool to bring these things about. Okay, because the Lord wants the suffering in the earth, man, because this earth has become proud, and this is an earth that has been heavily influenced by what? America, the whore. Okay, this is the results of following the whore, in this whole global, and it shows you all the nation that's in bed with the whore, because you have this interconnected economy. Okay, and the Most High, he's breaking this up, man. Esau thinks that he's just taking another step toward this new world order. Well, no, that's the Most High getting ready to break all this shit up once and for all, man. Okay, so let's play this.
But oil prices continue to fluctuate as the Strait of Hormuz, this crucial waterway through which a fifth of the world's crude typically passes, remains shut, and the war shows no signs of relenting. Brent crude oil on Thursday has climbed towards $104 per barrel after losing more than 2% on Wednesday, with West Texas Intermediate trading near $92 amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And Japan, meanwhile, is releasing oil from its strategic reserves to try and ease the price pressure. The country depends heavily on Middle Eastern supplies, with about 95% of its oil imports coming from the region. So let's take all of this on. We can speak to Mu Shu, who's a senior crude oil analyst at Kepler and joins us now from Singapore. Great to have you with us. So oil prices, hovering around $104 a barrel, and it's no surprise with all this uncertainty.
Yes, indeed. And we think the oil prices will continue to stay at an elevated level. Right now, there are a lot of news and conflicting message actually around the negotiations and whether there will be some potential escalation move during the weekend. So if something happened, we might see oil prices potentially hit higher level, especially if the U.S. want to send the troops to take over Kog Island or take over the control of the Strait of Hormuz, because then that will for sure trigger Iran to initiate some severe revenge that potentially pushes oil prices to, let's say, 120. But that could be a potential turning point in this war. But yet again, it's just a lot of uncertainties around here, and we just don't expect the oil price to go down anytime soon.
No, right. And what if the prices are to rise to, say, as you $120 and possibly above? What are the implications of that for the global economy and certainly the economy in Asia?
Right. So I think it really depends on what Asian countries we're talking about. For instance, like Japan, they still have a sizable oil inventories that they can continue release from these stockpiles, whereas some other countries like the Philippines, like Thailand, and even Australia, they don't have much oil reserves. So the higher oil prices not only means higher fuel price to them, that the pain is for real. Like there's just simply no gas in the station, and probably they need to ground the airlines at some point. So if the war drag along, let's say until mid or late April, we might see some severe implication like civil unrest or some crisis in a humanitarian way.
All right, so that's from the certain countries within Asia. What about globally and how it might be the contagious nature of this?
I think to most of the country in the west of Suez, what they will see is mostly the price implication. For instance, in the U.S., they will see the gas prices going up, and that might give Donald Trump more pressures and make them try to reach a deal or to do something. And at the same time, more countries, I would imagine, would come out and to try to be the mediators in this war and talk to Iran. For instance, like the China 2 days ago, their foreign minister Wang Yi, they had a chat with Iran, hope to cool the things down a little bit.
Amid all the uncertainty, there's all this rhetoric too, and it depends what you extract from it as to how you see things. And part of that rhetoric is that Iran saying that it wants sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz recognized, and that certainly isn't going to bring oil prices down, is it?
No, and see, Iran, okay, we go to China and Russia, okay, because China, they set things up before this war started, to where China can have a cushion in this war. Okay. So you have these other Asian countries, man, and they're going to be in dire straits, in a month or so. Okay. It's just not going to be in the oil. Now, there's certain, of course, the devil, he's going to engineer, he's just going to exaggerate, shortages, in these Western nations or in America. All right. Because Europe and Asia, they need their oil. There's gonna come a time where they're gonna have actual shortages, man. Okay, it's just not gonna be the oil there, man. So if this continues on, all right, you can see, nation like Australia, Thailand, okay, certain other nations in South Pacific of Asia, they just literally run out, So, and it looks like there ain't gonna be no end to this fight, man. And that's what I want to segue to next. All right, because they're passing all off ramps, man, and that's why the second part of this this video, okay, is titled BTA stand for belt to ass, man. Okay, because the IDF, those Israeli defense fences, they over there getting belt to ass, man, by those Iranian missiles and by the Hezbollah, man. Hezbollah is back on the scene. They thought Hezbollah was done. All right. Hezbollah back on the scene. Okay. And they've constantly escalated and increased their attacks, man. And the IDF ground troops don't stand a chance against Hezbollah, man. Okay. All right. Them soft ass small hats. They try to do their ground invasion. They just get slaughtered, man. This is about the third, this is about the third slaughter of their attempted ground invasion. Okay. Of South Lebanon, man. Okay, so they're just over there getting belt to ass, man. All right, and they're getting extremely frustrated. I got another clip I'm gonna show after this, but let's play a little bit of this and segue to the IDF, man. Which I told you, the IDF is the weakest military in this conflict, man. Out of all the military that's fighting, the IDF is the weakest. They just got all the American high-tech shit, okay, and they had American backing, and America has been backing them. So these nations, they've been able to just terrorize these nations, man. The only nation in the region with an air force, okay? Only nation in the region that had all this air defense, okay? Network, okay? So they've been able to just terrorize, but now it's over, man. Now they've really been exposed because been mainly just terrorizing civilians, okay, and extremely weak, militant groups, okay. But now, all right, they done ran into some fighters, man, and they trash, man. They just been exposed for what they always been, trash, okay. And now the earth is starting to see it. For the longest, they've been able to cover it up and play this tough guy, this bully, okay. But now we're starting to see, all right, belt to ass real time when it comes to the IDF, man. Okay, so let's play this.
We also have this incredible report, as pointed out here by Shael Ben Ephraim, who is an Israeli himself, but has in recent times become a huge critic of the Israeli government and of the Zionist project in its entirety. And so he points out here, the IDF chief of staff has warned that the IDF is on the verge of collapse after 900 straight days of war. This is what he told the government yesterday. Number one, reservists are being stretched to a breaking point across multiple active fronts simultaneously, including Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, and the Iranian front. Number two, no ultra-Orthodox conscription law has been passed, leaving thousands exempt from service in practice. Number three, the cabinet approved the legalization of dozens more outposts and farms in the West Bank, requiring additional troops to protect them. In other words, you are deploying some of your forces instead of fighting the war in Iran or Syria or in Lebanon or in Gaza or wherever else you're fighting the infinite number of wars that Israel is engaging in right now. You're sending your troops to the West Bank so that they can back up terrorist Israeli settlers who are going around doing pogroms against Palestinians in an attempt to steal their land in an ongoing, slow-rolling ethnic cleansing. Now he continues. Number four, Jewish nationalist terrorism is surging in the West Bank, requiring an additional battalion to be deployed there, with possibly another needed soon. Number five, mandatory service is set to shorten to 30 months in January of 2027, the opposite of the IDF's request to extend it to 36 months. And finally, number six, the government is avoiding passing the necessary laws, i.e. conscription, reserves, extended service, largely due to political pressure related to the Haredi exemption controversy. And finally, he says here, the expansionist policies of the government are straining the army to the point of no return. The IDF cannot carry this load and will collapse into itself, according to the chief of staff, soon if the wars of expansion do not stop. And Israel is simply not big enough and not rich enough to dominate the entire Middle East in the long term. And so not only do you have an overestimation here on the part of the Israelis to themselves, but you also have an overestimation in terms of the capabilities militarily of the United States of America. I mean, keep in mind, the IDF and the U.S. in coordination with that, they weren't able to successfully displace Hamas from power. They weren't able to successfully displace Hezbollah from power, not the Houthis either, as Trump sort of basically walked away from his confrontational war with the Houthis and said, wow, they're a lot tougher than we thought that they would be. And obviously, the war in Iran is not going as they expected. So it seems like the IDF, once again, overestimated their own capabilities and overestimated the U.S. capabilities in terms of maintaining hegemonic dominance over the entire region. And now it's at the point where the IDF chief of staff is warning that the IDF is about to collapse into itself. I mean, absolutely wild stuff there. We also have from Shael once again. He says, Israel is getting absolutely pummeled today. Friends send me pictures of hit sites that are not being reported. Reminder, there is a massive censorship regime currently in Israel to prevent sites or video recordings or images of sites that have been hit from being released to the general public, although much of it is still leaking out at this point. He says another Israeli was killed today in Nahariya, and Delta has canceled flights until September. The entire country is stunned by the ferocity of the Iranian response.
They're wild boy. They said they stunned by the ferocity of Iranian, all right, response. Well, goddamn, y'all done killed all those scientists. You killed Soleimani. You killed, blew up the school the first day. You killed the Ayatollah. What the hell you expect for somebody to do, man? See, Esau, he drunk off his own wine because he really think that he this tough guy. Okay, especially small hats, man. You know, they drunk off their own wine as if they really these untouchable tough guys, man. Okay, and they getting their ass beat to sleep. They getting their teeth kicked in over there. Okay, and like you say, they all their actions of resistance that they've boasting in, they destroyed this, they destroyed. No, these folks are still there fighting, man. Hezbollah is still there, stronger than there. We're gonna go into that some more. The Houthis are still there on deck. Okay, ready to jump in when the timing. Okay, you have these Iranian proxies. They're shooting down American fueler jets in Iraq from the ground. Okay, and then you have Iran itself, man. Okay, so these small hats, man, they believe they hype like they just gonna run the Middle East, man. Okay, they was never just no extraordinary military, man. Never, they never been no extraordinary military. Okay, they just had all the American high tech weaponry and intelligence, man, with the Mossad and the CIA. Okay, they just had this extraordinary advantage of these nations, but for just actual strategy and fighting, they never been extraordinary, man. They always been trash. Hezbollah beat Israel in 2006. Look it up. Look up the war between the Israelis and Hezbollah in 2006, man. They lost. Okay? And now the same thing is happening again, except it's getting worse. Okay? So let's play this. He's going to show a few pictures, man. All right? The small has to get in there is pummeled. Okay? And remember, Iran is striking 7 nations at once. Okay? And got American Navy on the run. Okay? Abraham Lincoln, this nigga waved by India somewhere. All right? The Gerald Ford, this nigga out of commission for a year and a half. Okay? And they still waiting on the aircraft carrier George H. Bush to pull up. Okay? That nigga done went missing. Where he at? Okay? So let's play this.
Response. And so again, we do have a little bit of video here from Al Jazeera in terms of some of the footage that we're getting out of Israel and Tel Aviv and around the rest of the country. So here are just a couple of examples of this. Here we see people who are seemingly spraying with their own water hose, trying to put out fires in the aftermath of some of these strikes. We see first responders in Tel Aviv responding to some of this here. You can see a fire going off there, huge plumes of smoke in the background in the aftermath of some of the impacts of these strikes here. We have a car that looks like it was directly hit by a missile there. You know, obviously people coming out of their homes, cleaning debris. Again, cars flipped over, impact sites on the sides of buildings. I mean, intense damage all over the country that we're seeing leak out from Israel. We also had this here from Dropsite News. Apparently, Iran struck a chemical complex.
So let's go from there. I'll put this in the chat too. We're going to go into Hezbollah, man, how they just dominate them small hats, man. Okay? And you're going to see this small hat go crazy, you know, in this little meeting that they had, man. Okay? Nigga crying, man. Okay? Let's go to here. Let's play this.
The biggest ambush in the history of the occupation. That is not hyperbole. It is the cold, hard reality that has just sunk in across the occupation, spreads like wildfire. For 2 consecutive nights, the Israeli military machine, the same force that boasts of having the most advanced armored corps in the region, was lured into a kill zone so perfectly executed that it will likely be studied in military academies for decades, albeit for all the wrong reasons from the perspective of Tel Aviv.
According to El Mayadeen, Hezbollah asserts it destroyed 10 Merkava tanks along with 2 heavily armored D9 bulldozers.
Hezbollah says it hit the Israeli Ministry of Defense in the heart of Tel Aviv. On the ground in southern Lebanon, 21 Merkava tanks burning.
Hezbollah fighters claim they destroyed a Merkava tank near Deir Syrian using a guided missile.
What transpired on the Taibe-Kantara axis was not merely a skirmish. It was the complete and total annihilation of an entire armored company. The occupation's 7th Brigade, arrogant in its assumed technological superiority, attempted to probe the defensive lines between Muhaisabat and Kantara on Tuesday. They sent a remote-controlled D9 bulldozer forward, a tactic designed to draw fire to expose defensive positions. But the resistance's defenders on the ground are not the undisciplined militia the Israeli propaganda machine wants the world to believe. They are seasoned, patient, and lethally intelligent. They watched the unmanned bulldozer crawl into their territory. They let it pass. They wanted real prize. Enemy deliver it to them. Just 24 hours later, at 6:50 p.m. on Wednesday, as the sun began to set over the hills of South Lebanon, the trap was sprung. A full armored column, Merkava tanks, the pride of the Israeli military, flanked by those same D9 bulldozers, rolled in single file, creeping toward the town of Kantara. They moved with the confidence of an occupier who has faced little more than scattered resistance in recent years. They were walking into a slaughterhouse. The Lebanese resistance defenders waited until every single vehicle had entered the designated kill zone. Then came the order, and the night sky lit up with the battle cry, Ya Rasulallah. Guided anti-tank missiles slammed into the middle of the column with surgical precision, instantly turning 4 Merkava tanks and 1 D9 bulldozer into burning steel coffins. The column was cut in half.
How much would it cost to publish your data into your readers' native languages?
Panic set in. The rear platoon, now isolated, popped smoke screens, desperately trying to hide from the eyes of the resistance. It was futile. The missiles found them anyway. All 4 tanks in the rear were gutted, flames consuming the armor that was supposed to be impervious to such tactics. The lead platoon, realizing they were trapped, made a desperate bid to push through into Quantara. They were met with more missiles. Another D9 and 2 more Merkavas were obliterated. In a matter of minutes, the arithmetic of the battle became devastatingly clear. 10 Merkava tanks and 2 D9 bulldozers destroyed. That is not just a loss. That is an entire company's worth of Israel's most sophisticated ground weaponry wiped from the battlefield in a single engagement. The surviving soldiers, those not burned alive inside their vehicles, abandoned their posts, fleeing on foot back toward Muhaisabat, dragging their wounded through the dirt while resistance artillery rained down on their fleeing command posts and any reinforcements that dared to approach. Before we continue breaking down how this catastrophe unfolded and what it means for the future of this conflict, I need to ask you something. This kind of reporting, the truth that the corporate Western media is terrified to show you, only survives if people like you support it. So please, take a second right now to hit that like button. It is the single most effective way to make sure this video reaches people who are being starved of this reality. Drop a comment, even if it's just a dot, or better yet, type resistance or South Lebanon to help overpower the algorithm that tries to bury this truth. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. We are not beholden to advertisers or the war machine. We are beholden only to honest journalism. Do it now, and let's get back to the story. This was not an isolated incident. To view it as such would be to miss the larger, terrifying picture that is currently keeping Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet awake at night. Just 2 days prior to this massacre of armor, the Lebanese resistance had pulled off a near-identical ambush on the Taibeh to Deir Syrian Road, where they destroyed 8 more Merkava tanks. Let that sink in. Within a span of 72 hours, the occupation has lost the equivalent of an entire armored battalion, 18 Merkava tanks and several D9 bulldozers, to a force they have spent months trying to degrade with relentless airstrikes. Even an Israeli settlement leader, Erez Saranga of Margaliot, breaks down in tears on live TV. For two
He's a nigga crying, man. Okay? This nigga crying, man.
Degrade with relentless airstrikes. Even in his...
Through. Okay? Finish. Belt to the ass, man. Alright? The IDF finna get it the worst, man. And as America is tied up because America has been the shield. But now America ain't that shield. Because now America got his hands tied. And Russia ain't jumped in yet. Turkey, they ain't jumped in yet. These other nations, man. Okay? It only get worse for the small hats in America, man. The small hats, which is the weakest of them all, they're starting all this shit. Now nigga want to cry, man. Okay? And it's gonna get worse. All right? But listen to this other small hat. This nigga here finna go berserk. This nigga here finna go berserk, man. Okay?
Israeli settlement leader Erez Saranga of Margaliot breaks down in tears on live TV.
All right. It said, no matter how we end the Lebanon front, I'm going to read a little bit of it. Then I'm going to just let him, he talking in that Yiddish. It said that we lost a city in the state of Israel. This is the first time a city, all right, this is the first time a city in the state of Israel is going. Yeah, because the residents are leaving. Okay, these people are living in bomb shelters. Okay, these are these small hats. Well, just hey, that's great for them because they cheered on all the wickedness of the IDF. When the IDF was just terrorizing and bombing, and they didn't have to worry about being attacked. Okay, they was cool with it, but now they're living in shelters. All right, they're on a constant bomb threat. All right, they're being forced to evacuate. Okay, they're being forced to relocate out the country. They're jumping on cruise ships. Okay, and remember, these people are not going to work. You live in a bomb shelter, nigga. Ain't no going to work. Nigga, you at war. Okay, nigga, ain't no going to work, living your regular life, man. And these people are complaining. All right, but I'm gonna just let this nigga play, man. But this mainly that's to sum up what he's speaking about. Okay, all right, he's crying, belt to ass, in full progress, man. Okay, so let's play this.
חודש או לא יודע כמה אפילו, איך אמר קודם, לא יודעים אפילו עוד כמה, להישאר במציאות העגומה הזו. אתם חושבים שישארו שם? אם היה להם פינוי, והם יכלו להיות אסמך הזיכרון הקצר רגע לזכור את ההגדות בבריכה ולא את כל 10 דקות לרוץ למקלט ובומים כל שנייה, אז זה גרם ל-16,000 לחזור. ואם אתם מצפים שעוד חודש ימים 10,000 יישארו ככה, יישארו 10 אנשים. אלה שלא יכולים ללכת בלבד. כי כבר עכשיו יזכרו את הבומים כל יום. וכל הזמן אומרים לי, זה הניצחון לחיזבאללה הם יפנו. חבר'ה, חיזבאללה להגיד שהוא ניצח, לא משנה מה. הניצחון שלו יהיה שלא יישאר במדינת ישראל. לא אם יפנו או לא יפנו, זה לא השיקול שלי. ואם יש לי 4,700 דירות בלי מיגון תקני, או מיגון בכלל, איזה ניצחון זה? לא דאגתם להם למיגון עד עכשיו, אז בזמן אמת תמגנו אותם. לא מסוגלים, תעיפו אותם מהסכנה. לא שולחים חייל לקרב בלי שכפ"ץ, נכון? למה שמים אזרח בחזית בלי מגן?
Look how this nigga looking at him here. He going berserk. Well, nigga, you got all that rah-rah, nigga. You need to be on the front line. Shit, arguing them ain't gonna change the score. Nigga, you need to take that energy to the front line. Okay? All this screaming, and nigga, you need to take that to the front line. Nigga, suit up. Nigga, they need that right now. You know? Well, he's going crazy or whatever meeting this is, man.
המינימום זה א' ב' בין מדינה לאזרח. לספק לנו ביטחון. כשלתם. יש לי ילדה בת 2 בת 5, אני צריך להוציא אותה לפעילות 2 במקלט, שאני מתפלל כל פעם בדרך הזאת. וככה התושבים שלנו חיים. עם ילדים המוגבלים, עם קשישים. איך מצפים שהבחור משבוע שעבר שחטף טיל בקומה השלישית בגיל 80 יגיע ב10 שניות למקלט? איך סיפרו שהנהג אוטובוס המסכן?
He said, how you think an 80-year-old man on the 3rd floor gonna reach a bomb shelter in 10 seconds? Well, nigga, you should have thought about that before you started this, nigga. Okay, you should have had all this planned out, nigga. Okay, you don't care about nobody else, elderly or children. Okay, you still got people being dug out of the rubble of Gaza. Now they digging small hats out of the rubble of Tel Aviv. Okay, your brother can post that Joel 4 and 8. Okay, Bible shot Joel 4 and 8. All right, ain't nobody thinking about how that 80-year-old small hat gonna get from the 3rd floor to the shelter in 10 seconds. Nigga, he not gonna make it. Okay, there's a hat, nigga. Hezbollah out there catching hats. Iran catching them hats, some small hats, man. Okay, and like I say, suit this nigga up, man. Okay, if I was a general, nigga, suit up, nigga. Says you got all this goddamn ferocity around here, nigga.
יעצור את האוטובוס, יוריד את הנוסעים והגיע למיגון. זה נפגע הראש שהיו לי בפגיעות האחרונות. וצריך תודה, יצאנו בזול. אם האוטובוס הזה היה מלא אנשים, היה לי הרן, בלי מענה רפואי אפילו לתת טיפול להרן הזה. בלי פינוי מושג, בלי הטן. תגידו, אתם נורמליים? מה אנחנו? איזה אזרחים אנחנו?
The defenders of Lebanon have proven that their tactical acumen is not only intact, but has evolved into a nightmare for the occupiers. They are no longer simply firing rockets across the border in retaliation. They are systematically dismantling the Israeli military's capacity to conduct.
Yeah, and see, that sign is spiritual because there ain't no turning back. Okay, ain't no turning back, nigga. You done embarked on this. You done embarked on this journey, nigga. You open this door. Okay, you open the door with your chest out. Okay, so ain't no turning back. I'm just looking at this sign, this military. Ain't no turning back. We at war now. Okay, nigga, we ain't got time to complain. All right, nigga, go do something. There's a whole battlefield where you can go prove yourself, niggas. You can go prove how angry you is. It's a whole battlefield. Okay, pull up on to run. All right, so let's go from there. I got one more little clip to show you, man. All right, belt to ass, man. Full progress, man. Okay, I got let's go here. Let me pull this up. And this is from the beloved brother. The Tazwan sent me this from Instagram. I don't know if y'all can see it. Let me put some sound to it. So yeah, these is IDF pilots fleeing from air bases. Okay, because air base has been hit. Okay, so you got Israeli military leaving post and refusing. All right, against Iran defeat. Okay, so these pilots, they're getting out of there, man. Because them aircrafts going down. See, ain't no more just doing air strikes and coming home, nigga. You might not make it back. Yeah, we finna go do the air strike. Okay, nigga, you might not come back. You see, it's different now. This thing hitting different now. Okay, so you got these IDF soldiers. These are IDF pilots, man. They shit. We leaving, nigga. Look how this nigga walking. This nigga right here, you know. Check out this nigga walking. Shit, this nigga, he's sick of this shit. Put your goddamn hands off me, nigga. God damn, boy. Yeah, that tough talk only get you so fucked, man. You gotta prove that shit one of these days, man. You know? Yeah, that nigga, they're walking like shit, nigga. I'ma walk home, nigga. Shit. Over with, man. Yeah, man. Them niggas ain't built for nothing, man. All right. Niggas been overrated for a long time. All right. They had the world fooled like they was some bully tough guys, man. Them niggas never been that. Okay. All hype, man. So yeah, let's play this. I mean, let's get this here, man. Yeah, this the brother Anah, GMS all in 144, Job 4 and 8. And it says, even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. So they're just reaping everything that they've sown, man. You know, all this bully, okay? You know, this bully bad guy shit, okay? This shit come to a head. Now, you out there with some real soldiers, okay, with nothing to lose, man, and you ain't looking so tough, man. It's easy to blow up civilians with the Air Force, okay, and brag about the numbers and, you know, blowing up pages and phones. No, nigga, we finna go to war, nigga. All these gimmicks, blowing up scooters and all that shit, nigga, we finna go to war, nigga. Okay, see what you built like, and we see. All right, the small hats are the weakest of them all. Okay, and that's why they had to drag America into it, and America getting them lumps too. Okay, one thing about it, you can't say that Iran discriminate they ain't selective tough. Okay, the America, the small hats, the EU, the Gulf, nigga, what? Nigga, you help these niggas, you in the war. Okay, so yeah, man, it's beautiful. As a matter of fact, we can end on that. If a brother can post that, some rock 25-7, Bob Bashar, man. Yeah, man. So these niggas been playing these tough guys for all these years, man, and now they got their card pulled, man. Okay, and they ain't got no answer. Okay, go pick your homeboys up. All right, dragging these niggas back across the border, man. Okay, all their technology, man, all their spies. See, the Messiah ain't gonna get them out of this one, man. CIA ain't gonna get them out of this one, nigga. Y'all niggas gonna have to fight. No turning back, man. That sign that said no turning back was heavy. With them tanks, man, no turning back, man. We locked in now. And it only get worse, man. Let me see. Brother got that for me. This is Sirach 25-7 said there be 9 things would have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. Okay. It says a man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy, man. It's beautiful to see this nigga fall, man. It's beautiful to see this nigga fall, man. So that's the point. I'll leave it there. Lord will, you brothers. All right. And you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the whole elect. Shalom.